board members, employers, apprentices and guests. Firstly, I hope you've enjoyed the presentations that you've heard already today, the panel discussion, and that's got the juices flowing. My name is Andrew Finn, as I mentioned, Director of Academic Affairs and Programme Development for FIT. I'm 6 years now, nearly 6 years in my role with, I suppose, a remit to deliver these apprenticeship programs into the ICT sector, and I think I've been busy in that time thinking about governance, thinking about quality, thinking about scale. But my job today is to condense that 6 years into a short slide deck, which you'll hopefully find interesting. I'm going to touch on a few different topics, a little bit about context, a bit of background around the apprenticeship programs, a little bit of history, and to finish off with a little bit about the future, which is really why we're all here today, isn't it? So with that in mind, I'm going to start. So we're all really conscious of businesses navigating, I suppose, the whole ecosystem into 2024. And the reality is there's no shortage of challenges out there. And I think certainly one of the biggest challenges is really this whole post-coronavirus environment that we're all part of now. Remote working, hybrid working, people's changing attitudes to work, and somewhat softening of demand for products and services that became so integral through the whole COVID period. I had a personal experience myself recently with my father, who's nearly 70 years of age and who left school at 12 years of age and went and drove machinery. And he told me recently, and it took me aback a bit, about the complexity and the fine points of his internet banking. And for me, that signifies huge change in terms of COVID having been a driver for change that maybe all of us maybe won't see again in our lifetime. Very, very significant. We've got other issues, internet connectivity across the state. There's still areas that could be improved, data integrity, lots of hardware and software issues, a myriad of cybersecurity risks, both for business and personally. I think one of the really sad things about our society more recently is that we hear cyber warfare, this concept now, which kind of scares us all. We've got privacy and compliance issues, matters around cloud optimization, and I suppose the big ticket item for today, kind of artificial intelligence, that kind of impact on digital ecosystems. Myself, when I pair it all back, I think it's really interesting how much the public has embraced products like ChatGPT, but I think it'll be in the next year or two where businesses really start getting into using AI with regard to unstructured data, gleaning those insights that'll give them the edge on their competitors. So on the right-hand side of my slide there, you've probably seen a strange collage of pictures and statements. I had a trip in 2020 in Koh Samui in Thailand to attend the wedding of one of my very good friends. When I really should have been switched off with the leisure things, what really struck me there was the telecommunications infrastructure on every corner is just like that picture behind us. And what that picture actually tells us is that, in terms of the business side of things, is that success is not a given. Perfection is not a given, that we have to keep working, we have to keep trying for all of these things every day, otherwise that lamppost could be on our corner. Very interesting character called Stuart Brand, who I have an interest in, an American writer, says once a new technology rolls over of you, if you're not part of the steamroller, you're part of the road. And I think for tech companies in particular, that's very pertinent in terms of really being aware of the challenges, but trying to get advantage where you can. I think certainly too, in terms of the context of the tech apprenticeships, we live in a country that's fantastic for business to thrive. One of my great interests is history, and certainly I know a little bit about, how the state came about and all those different things. Really good driver, 1958, Ireland's first programme for economic expansion, T.K. Whitaker, a real hero of mine. A thought process, 58-page document that put us on a trajectory that we looked out the way rather than looking in the way, where actually we decided to take our future in our own hands and really go for it. Following that, we had the Shannon Free Zone, We had duty free, we had the development of IDI Ireland, fantastic organisation, and then in the 70s, opening into Europe, how great that has been in terms of European citizenship. And now we also have this whole sustainability piece coming into our personal lives, coming into business in terms of where advantage can be found, where profit can be made. It's really, really good. When we look at the tech sector in Ireland and we look at the business environment, at the moment we look at the ICT area, gaming, global pharmaceuticals, diagnostics, medical devices, financial services. Ireland holds between 55 and 85% of all those global players operating in Ireland. And I think that's a very, very great result. But we've built a few companies of our own in the meantime. We have CRH, the largest construction materials business in the world. We got Ryanair, global aviation giant. We got Kerry Group, fantastic organisation. What's the most popular butter in Germany? Kerrygold, as we all know, a real fantastic story. The statistics tell us that in Q3 2023, foreign direct investment inflows into Ireland, nearly 20 billion euros, a staggering sum of money. But foreign direct outflows from the country, from our own homegrown business, over 40 billion euros. And that is exceptional performance for any country. You'll see two grainy black and white photos on the right-hand side. The one on the left was taken not 100 metres away on the pitch. That's Michael Collins throwing in the ball at the 1921 All-Ireland Hurling Senior Final. Fantastic shot. But a couple of weeks later, Michael had another job to do in Dublin Castle when he presided over the handing over of the state to the Free State from the British. We all know lots about history in that space, but one of the very interesting facets of it is that many of the British administrators who were departing, people who had spent their lives growing up the services of the state, they were thinking, well, these Irish young lads, will they be able to run the state? Will they be able to manage to hand over the pensions that are going to still have to be paid? Real concerns. And I think about, when we look at the actual performance, what would those men have thought about our progress as a country? I think it can only be, as IDA have there in their logo, extraordinary. Behind all of that, I suppose, progress has always been a focus on highly educated graduates. In Ireland, it's the Higher Education Authority manage that in terms of the governance. They make sure that there is a social, cultural and economic development through, I suppose, the development of different higher education institutions in Ireland. And as a person interested in education, I'm interested in all education. And I think there's no doubt that in that space, that higher education has been multiple drivers for economic growth, improved equality of opportunity, has engaged citizenship, and has provided centres of research excellence. Think about topics like cancer research. There can be really nothing more important in the space. When we look at traditional modules of education in terms of your degrees, your honours degrees, postgraduate qualifications, maybe 4+ years, broad in scope, they come from organisations in Ireland that are around sometimes many years. Think about Trinity College, 1592. The picture on the left, that's the long room in Trinity College. You can smell the wood in there and the age. Those institutions will probably be still there in another 300 to 400 years. And they have unlocked a lot of potential, but not for all people, for some people. When we think about Ireland, certainly some of the genesis around tech apprenticeship has been to try and kind of change mindsets, change kind of traditional thinking. How many households in Ireland talk about, you'll study medicine like your father. If you're not in college by September, you're on the street. Your accommodation alone is $8,000 a year. Don't mess it up. You could be the first person in the house to go to college. And then the killer blow, your mother is so disappointed. I don't know if any of you have heard that around, but it happens. But really, that's a collage of, I suppose, a national thinking that grew up when, in a time, people had, for the first chance, the access to send their children to higher education. And in some ways, that narrowed things a little bit in terms of thinking. And I think we've done some work in recent years around addressing that. So when we look at national and international publications around skills needs and ICT skills deficits, they all tell us a very clear message that 70% of roles can be filled with those with intermediate skills. Work-based learning can provide the opportunity to access a full and diverse cross-section of society in a way that maybe other roles can't. It is a fact that when people sometimes leave school, they want to go straight into the workforce. But why is this all important? Why is it important for business? Why should an employer pick up these programs? My own view, firstly, to foster innovation, to solidify solution-driven mindsets. I can assure you, every technology company that onboards anybody is looking for solutions, is looking for maybe people that think about things a bit different, to also create a culture of mentorship and growth. And finally, and I think not unimportantly, to really develop future business leaders. And what do I mean by that? It might be a big thing on day one for an apprentice to come in and think they're going to be the CEO of the company, or for the strategic HR business partner to have aspirations in that space. But where you bring apprentices into an environment, it creates loyalty, it creates synergies in terms of interaction with work teams, and it creates potential, particularly where that's early education potential in terms of people trying to progress their skills development. The picture on the bottom there, that's an individual called, by the name of Jim Mead. I hope he doesn't mind me using this photo today. Jim is the CEO of Irish Rail, and I attended a presentation recently that Jim managed, and he was telling his story about working literally in the station and the mechanics of trains and developing and pushing, as an apprentice, by the way, and pushing all that narrative all the way along, and he's now the CEO of Irish Rail. I wonder, did the HR business partner, if that's what they called them in the 1970s, could have thought that this was the potential that he was bringing into the organisation. So in terms of apprenticeship in Ireland, a lot of work has happened. The statutory foundations are in the 1960s. They're industry-led by consortium of, I suppose, interested parties between 2 and 4 years duration, minimum 50% on-the-job learning. A lot of work has been done in Ireland to really put apprenticeship on par with different other educational options, such as some tertiary education programs. And that is for the betterment of the citizens of the country, for us to be able to look to our sons and daughters and say, hey, you learn maybe a little bit differently. You don't want to be in college. You want to get your hands dirty on day one in the workplace and learn in that way, and that's okay. But the system, as we enlarge, is beginning to now produce various opportunities for people in that space. In terms of the Tech Apprenticeship programs, at the moment there are 3 active apprenticeship programs. I'm sure you've had an opportunity to have a look in the stands throughout this facility. Software development, computer networking, and cybersecurity. Software development and computer networking came on stream in 2018. We've brought them through a review process. Cybersecurity, 2019. We also have a data analytics apprenticeship in development at the moment, very exciting in terms of AI and machine learning and data-driven insights. So that's coming on stream, hopefully, towards the end of this year. We've also done some good work in the background in the last few years with TUD, for example, with the Open University, about really looking at what's next for graduate apprentices in terms of progressing their education. And we have progressed some discussions with Griffith College around an apprenticeship-centric progression route that could potentially keep an apprentice all the way from year 1 on the level 6 programme all the way into an honours degree qualification at the end. In terms of a snapshot of the apprenticeship programmes, and this is exciting because when I talked about earlier 6 years of work, this is I suppose where we're at now. At the moment we have 800 apprentices who have been active on programmes. By the end of this year, that figure will hit 1,000, and that is not an insignificant figure. A good broad representation of all genders. I suppose my ambition is that we end up with a 50-50 and very equal split. That's what we need to strive to. We have promotion of industry and relevant skills, and we have a solid national reach of the programs. Very easy to focus on the Dublin-centric locations, Galway, Cork, the bigger population masses. But we have spread these programs throughout the nation. We have programs in Cork, Dundalk, Sligo, Athlone, Dublin. We've really done our best in that space because we have responsibility, and responsibility to bring opportunity straight across the country. We've also, I believe, elevated the concept of a level 6 two-year program amongst employers. When I started out 6 years ago, we were knocking on doors and we were told it must be an honours degree. You will not get in the door of this organisation. And that was difficult for FID. It was difficult for us, but we kept knocking on the doors. We kept showing people candidates, great candidates. And over time, we brought down that barrier. It's now, I think, generally accepted out there in the IC sector that actually apprentices can contribute, and that they can not only contribute, but help grow the businesses. We're really proud of our civil service implementations, and I know there are lots of stakeholders here today, and that thing, it's been a huge privilege to be part of that, because it's part of the initiatives that will hopefully sustain, not in 2024, but in 2034 and beyond. Really, really important. And we also have multiple examples of large-scale employer onboarding. So what that means in terms of companies looking for full groups of apprentices, not just one. Really, really getting behind the initiative. And what I would say to everyone today is, if you're an apprentice, a candidate, you know, be curious, make your application. If you're an employer interested in a program, please do just go for it. Maybe start with one apprentice, but FIT will be there to support you in that journey. The reality is, we actually can't do it without continued support. We can't do it without, I suppose, the diverse input from stakeholders along the way. So I'd just like to finish and thank everyone for your time today. I hope that was insightful. Thank you.